started with a joke. At least, that's what I told myself the first time I found the book. Who leaves highlighted lines of poetry in the library, underlining words like yearning and forever, as if they're tossing secrets into the air for someone desperate enough to catch them. I wasn't supposed to care. I wasn't supposed to pause on the way back from my late shift at the diner, fingers still smelling faintly of grease, and let my eyes linger on those scribbled notes in the margins. But I did. And God help me, I came back the next night, and the next, waiting to see if the mystery would continue. The library of Franklin University was old, with ceilings so high it felt like even whispers could get lost in them. Students usually came in the day, chasing caffeine and deadlines, but I came at night, when the aisles grew darker, when I could be alone with the words someone left for me. Or maybe not for me. Maybe they just left them and I was stealing them. That thought should have made me feel guilty, but instead it made my pulse race. Because every underlined phrase felt too pointed, too sharp to be random. Loneliness is only bearable when someone is listening. We write so someone might find us, and I had found him. By the second week, I was looking forward to my shift's ending. My friends joked about my midnight librarian obsession, but none of them knew the truth that I wasn't there to study. I was there to feel alive. Every note felt like oxygen in a life that had been suffocating for years. Because here's the thing. In small-town Ohio, boys like me don't exactly grow up free. I learned young how to hide, how to smile at girls in ways that never reached my eyes, how to silence myself every time the word faggot got tossed around like a football. So I built walls. And then a stranger with neat handwriting and a penchant for quoting Rilke came along and cracked them open. I didn't even know his name. But in the quiet, between shelves stacked with forgotten volumes, he felt closer than anyone ever had. The first time I saw him, I almost laughed, because of course it had to be him, Jason Carter, star pitcher of the university's baseball team. Blonde hair, sharp jawline, the kind of smile that could sell soda in a commercial. He was the last person I expected to see holding my book. I was frozen, standing half-hidden behind a row of shelves, watching him slide a pen out of his jacket pocket and write in the margins of leaves of grass. His face was unreadable, but his hands trembled as he underlined a line. We were together. I forget the rest. And then he tucked the book back into its place, glanced around as if checking for ghosts, and walked away. I didn't follow him. Couldn't. My knees were shaking too hard. But that night, when I pulled the book from the shelf, the ink was still fresh. And my heart, traitorous and desperate, whispered, "It's him. It's always been him." By then I couldn't stop. Every night Jason wrote, and every night I read. I began to write back. At first it was cautious tiny notes in the corners, just 1 or 2 words. He underlined hope and I wrote, "Me too." He scribbled, "I'm tired of hiding," and I answered, "So am I." It was insane. We weren't even talking, not really. Just shadows of ourselves passed through ink. But it felt more real than anything in my life. The turning point came on a rainy Thursday night. The library smelled of wet concrete and old paper, and I found a new note tucked into the book, not written in the margins, but folded on loose-leaf paper, waiting for me. "Meet me here tomorrow. Midnight." My stomach dropped. My hands shook so violently I nearly tore the page. For hours, I sat awake in my dorm room, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I had the courage. Wondering if maybe this was a joke or a trap, the kind of cruel prank small towns excel at. But I couldn't stay away. When I walked into the library the next night, the clock had just struck 12. The silence was deafening, every creak of the floorboards echoing like a gunshot. And then I saw him, Jason, leaning against the far table, hands shoved deep into his pockets, eyes fixed on me like I was both salvation and disaster. "You came," he said softly. "Of course I came," I whispered back, even though my chest was about to explode. For a long time we didn't move, just stared at each other, 2 boys on opposite sides of a line we weren't supposed to cross. And then, almost shyly, Jason pulled a small notebook from his pocket. He handed it to me. "I didn't think anyone would read them," he admitted, voice breaking. "The notes. I had to write them or I'd drown." I flipped through the notebook, my throat closing with every page filled with his handwriting, his loneliness, his fear, his desperate wish to be known. And I realized I wasn't the only one suffocating. That was the night everything changed. We began to meet in the library regularly, no longer just through notes but in whispered conversations, shared laughter, and long silences that said more than words ever could. Jason told me about the pressure of being the golden boy of Franklin University, about how he smiled for cameras while hiding his truth. I told him about my father, who hadn't spoken to me in years after finding a gay magazine under my bed. It was raw. It was terrifying. But it was also the most honest thing I'd ever known. One night, when the library lights flickered as the janitor closed up, Jason reached across the table and took my hand. His touch was hesitant, trembling. But when our fingers laced together, I felt a weight lift off me that I hadn't even realized I was carrying. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel alone. But love in the dark is never simple, because secrets have a way of spilling, and the world outside those library walls wasn't ready for us. The thing about secrets is they grow too heavy to carry forever. Jason and I thought the library could contain us, that those walls lined with books would protect the fragile, forbidden space we had built. But real life, louder, crueler, messier, always finds a way in. It happened on a Saturday game, the kind of day the whole campus buzzed with pride. Jason pitched with fire, the crowd chanting his name, and for a while I believed he could outrun the truth. But after the victory, after the cheerleaders and the photographs, he found me waiting by the edge of the stadium. And he didn't hide the way he looked at me, just a second, barely more. A flicker of softness in his eyes, a twitch of a smile meant for no one but me. It was nothing until it was everything. By Monday morning, whispers had spread across campus. Carter's got a thing for some guy. Did you see the way he looked? No way, he's noth can't be. Jason tried to laugh it off, but I saw the cracks. The coach pulled him aside. Teammates elbowed him in the locker room, and strangers muttered when he passed. It wasn't violent, not yet. But it was the slow suffocation of 1,000 little cuts. And worse, I knew I was the reason. One night, when the library was too quiet and Jason's hands shook too hard to even hold mine, he said it. I can't do this anymore. The words split me open. Jason, please, they're watching us, he choked out. I'm not strong like you. I can't fight all of them. I wanted to tell him he was wrong, that he was stronger than anyone I knew. But the fear in his eyes silenced me. So I let him walk away. And the library went back to being just a building full of books. Except now every shelf felt hollow, every page empty. I still came at night, sitting in the same corner, tracing my fingers over the margin notes we had once exchanged. It was like touching the outline of a ghost. I told myself I hated him, that he was a coward, that I should move on. But when you've let someone touch the deepest wound inside you, you don't just stitch it up overnight. Weeks passed. Jason avoided me in the halls, his smile plastered on for the cameras, his voice cheerful for his teammates. But I saw a shadow in his eyes, the slump of his shoulders when he thought no one was looking. Then came the storm. Literally. A late October hurricane ripped through Ohio, tearing down trees and flooding streets. Franklin University shut down. Students crammed into dorms without power. The library, of course, was closed. But I couldn't sit still. Something gnawed at me, some pull I couldn't ignore. And so, flashlight in hand, I pushed through the rain and broken branches, until I stood before those locked library doors. And he was already there, soaked to the bone, hair plastered to his forehead. Jason leaned against the doorframe like a man waiting for judgment. When he saw me, he didn't speak. He just reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a notebook, the same one he had given me months before, the one full of his secret words. Only now it was heavier, thicker, bursting with pages. I kept writing, he said hoarsely. Even after we stopped. I wrote to you. Every night. My throat closed. Jason, he shoved the notebook into my hands. I can't do this without you. I thought I could. But I can't. And right there, in the middle of a storm that shook the world around us, he broke. His voice cracked, his hands trembled, and the boy everyone thought was unshakable finally let himself fall apart. I dropped the flashlight, pulled him into me, and for the first time since losing him, I felt whole again. The days after weren't easy. We faced the whispers, the stares, the casual cruelties that came like clockwork. Jason's coach benched him, sponsors pulled away, friends revealed themselves to be strangers. My professors whispered about distractions and choices, but through it all we had each other. Every night we returned to the library, even when it hurt, especially when it hurt. We wrote new notes in the margins, not to hide, but to declare, we are still here. We are not ashamed. And slowly the whispers began to lose power. A few classmates offered quiet smiles. A professor left us an anonymous note. Keep going. You're braver than you think. Jason's sister flew in from Chicago and hugged him so tightly, he cried in the middle of the cafeteria. We weren't a secret anymore. We were a story, messy and real, unfolding in the open. Months later, when spring returned to Franklin, Jason and I sat in the library window as the sun set, golden light spilling across his face. His hand rested in mine, steady now, no longer trembling. You know, he murmured, I used to think the library was a prison, a place I went to hide so no one would see me. And now? I asked. He smiled, eyes soft and certain. Now it feels like the place I found freedom. I looked down at the book between us, leaves of grass, worn and tattered, its margins filled with the story of us. And I realized he was right, because love, real love, isn't about running from the world. It's about finding the courage to face it together. So we sat there, side by side, as the world outside kept spinning. Not perfect, not safe, not easy, but ours, always ours. And in that moment, I knew. Every note, every secret, every storm had been worth it. Because my heart no longer belonged in silence. It belonged to him, forever. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.